Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. Some stories are woven with dark threads, leaving long shadows of pain. This is one of those stories. It's about how a normal life can unravel in an instant, revealing a scary world where trusting someone can be deadly and innocence can disappear faster than you can blink. Imagine a regular town, people going about their days, not knowing the danger hiding right beside them. Here, a friendly smile can mask evil plans, and a chance meeting can lead you somewhere you never wanted to go.
Caulfield Prison in Bristol tonight. In the highest security wing, John Cannon, the man who killed Shirley Banks, is beginning a life sentence. For once, it'll mean just that. The judge told him at the age of 35 that he'd never come out of prison again. He's simply too dangerous. Cannon is responsible for a series of ruthless sex attacks, but he'll always be remembered as the man who committed the murder of Shirley Banks. The judge said Cannon is violent, horrible, evil.
This story starts in a place where hope and fear mix together, where the line between safe and dangerous is blurry, like watercolors bleeding on a wet painting. It'll make you question everything you thought you knew about people and the world around you. We'll see how a life full of potential can take a dark turn, leaving heartbroken people in its wake. We'll follow the relentless search for justice, the unwavering fight for truth, and the incredible strength of those left behind. Hey, true crime fam, buckle up, because Crimeco is back with another chilling case that will send shivers down your spine. We all love a good mystery, one that keeps us guessing and peeking over our shoulders. Here at Crimeco, we're all about unraveling those tangled threads, bringing you the stories that haunt our collective memory. So if you're ready for a deep dive into the dark side, hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. It fuels our hunt for the truth. Now, grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and prepare to crack open a case that'll leave you saying, "Wait, what?" All right, detectives, let's get cracking. Our story takes place in the heart of England, a land of rolling hills, charming villages, and a rich past. But beneath this postcard-perfect image lurks a darker reality, one that would soon shatter the peace of its residents. Enter John Cannon, born in Birmingham on a cold February day in 1954. John's early life seemed normal. His dad, a former World War II pilot, became an engineer. His mom stayed home. From the outside, the Cannon family was the picture of suburban bliss. But looks can be deceiving, and their home held secrets that would twist John's future in unimaginable ways. At just 4 years old, John's parents sent him to a posh boys' school called Keys. This early separation from home was the first step in a bumpy educational journey. Little did anyone know, this seemingly harmless decision would set off a chain of events that would forever change John. As John grew older, those around him noticed a shift. He developed a stutter, a physical sign of the inner turmoil brewing within. His behavior became unpredictable, and he struggled to connect with other kids. What was causing this change in the once happy child? The answer was buried deep within the school grounds. At the tender age of 7 or 8, John suffered a terrible experience. A teacher, someone supposed to keep him safe, became the source of unimaginable pain. The details were too awful for young John to grasp, let alone tell anyone. This early betrayal shattered John's trust. He started seeing the world through a lens of fear and shame, emotions that would later morph into anger and resentment. The once promising student withdrew, his grades slipped, and his school phobia grew into a crippling fear. By 9, John's parents couldn't ignore the changes anymore. Worried about his well-being, they took him out of Keys and sought professional help. But the damage was done. John's personality was cracked, and the cracks were starting to show. As John entered his teenage years, these inner demons began to act out in disturbing ways. At just 14, he committed his first known crime, an indecent assault on a woman in a phone booth. This incident, which landed him on probation, was a chilling harbinger of the darkness to come. Despite this early brush with the law, John's life seemed to settle down somewhat as he became an adult. He got a sales job at his dad's car company, a respectable path towards a normal life. In 1978, 24, John took another step towards normalcy by marrying June Val, his fiancée of 7 years. But the facade crumbled under the weight of John's inner struggles. His marriage quickly fell apart. Even the birth of their child seemed to push John further into the darkness. By 1980, he was an alcoholic, spending nights at bars and clubs, desperately trying to escape his life. As John's personal life unraveled, a disturbing pattern emerged in the West Midlands. Brutal attacks on women in open houses sent shockwaves through the community. The perpetrator, dubbed the house for sale rapist, targeted properties listed by estate agents, leaving a trail of terror behind. The 1980s dawned, and things went from bad to worse for John Cannon. His marriage to June Val fell apart, and his new relationship with Sharon Major wasn't much better. Instead of calming him down, it seemed to unleash a violent storm that would shatter the lives of those around him. On New Year's Eve 1980, what should have been a night of celebration turned into a horror show for Sharon. John showed up with wine, but also a hidden weapon. The night ended with him hurting her and making terrifying threats. It was a wake-up call for Sharon, a horrifying realization of the monster she was dating. This wasn't just a turning point for Sharon, it was for John too. It was like a dam broke inside him, unleashing a torrent of criminal acts that would only escalate in the coming years. February 1981 marked John's first known robbery. Armed with a knife, he threatened 2 female gas station attendants. The fear he saw in their eyes seemed to fuel him, pushing him towards even more shocking crimes. March of that same year saw John sink to a new low. He walked into a women's clothing store, but stealing wasn't his only motive. Inside, he encountered a shop assistant, Jane Bradford, and her 17-month-old baby. What followed was a horrific ordeal that would leave everyone involved forever scarred. John threatened to hurt the baby to control Jean. Things got even worse when Jean's mom arrived, only to be tied up and forced to witness the nightmare unfolding before her. The trauma inflicted on this family, that day would stay with them for years to come. These crimes didn't go unnoticed. By June 1981, John was in court. He admitted what he did and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. 5 years for his crimes against Jean and her baby, and an extra 3 years for the robberies. But even behind bars, John's story wasn't over. Prison would be a break, a time for him to sharpen his manipulative skills and get ready for release. John started his sentence at Bristol Prison, but he bounced around, first to Portland, then to London. It was like the prison system itself couldn't hold him, a dark foreshadowing of the trouble law enforcement would have with him later. As his release date neared, John was given more freedom. From January 1986, he lived in a halfway house at Wormwood Scrubs, even getting day release privileges. Little did anyone know, this taste of freedom would soon lead to a new wave of terror. During this semi-free period, 2 important events happened that would later become key to the investigation surrounding John. In May, Sandra Court was brutally attacked in Bournemouth. Then, in July, Susie Lamplew, a young estate agent, vanished after meeting a client named Mr. Kipper. At the time, no one connected these dots to the man nearing the end of his sentence in a London halfway house. But as John's story unfolded, these events would take on a chilling new meaning. In July 1986, John Cannon was released back into society, but instead of using this as a chance to start fresh, he seemed to see it as a green light to indulge in his darkest desires. The stage was set for a series of crimes that would shock the nation and leave investigators struggling to connect the pieces. As John walked out of prison and into the summer of 1986, no one could have predicted the trail of devastation he was about to leave behind. The worst was yet to come, and the lives of several unsuspecting women were about to be forever changed. Freed from prison in 1986, Cannon was like a predator let loose. He wasted no time picking up where he left off. Prison had only honed his skills. Now, with added charm and the ability to manipulate, he was even more dangerous. Just 3 months later, on a cool October night in Reading, his path crossed with a woman. What began as a simple question for directions turned into a terrifying ordeal. Cannon pulled a knife, forcing her into a situation no one deserves. The physical and emotional scars he left would stay with her for years. He managed to slip away this time. When questioned, he confidently lied, claiming to be somewhere else. Early DNA testing wasn't helpful, and without solid proof, the police had to let him go. Little did they know, this would have terrible consequences. As 1987 rolled in, Canon's crimes kept coming, getting worse each time. In September, he did something strange. He joined a video dating service under a fake name. It was a chilling attempt at normalcy, a mask hiding his true self.
I think a ruff would suit me. Tights and a sword. I can see me on some bridge or some galleon, being a pirate. Yes, I can handle that.
But October of 1987 marked a horrific turning point. On the 8th, Shirley Banks, a 29-year-old newlywed, vanished after a shopping trip. A simple errand turned into a deadly encounter with Canon. Her husband, expecting to meet her for drinks, waited in vain. The next day, a call to her workplace revealed a chilling detail. Shirley had called in sick just before vanishing. This small fact would later unveil the cold calculation behind Canon's actions. As the search for Shirley intensified, the truth about Canon started to unfold. The night before Shirley disappeared, he tried to snatch another victim, Julia Holman, a businesswoman. Canon confronted her in a car park with a gun, but Julia bravely fought back and escaped. Her courage would later play a crucial role in bringing Canon to justice. The search for Shirley became a massive operation. Hundreds of officers scoured Bristol docks for her car, made public pleas, and chased every lead. Initially, the police even considered the possibility of Shirley leaving on her own or her husband being involved. These early missteps allowed Canon to remain free, continuing his reign of terror. Finally, in late October, Canon's luck ran out. He was arrested in Leamington Spa after attacking a shop assistant. This arrest was the turning point. It set in motion the chain of events that would finally expose Canon's web of crimes and bring him to justice. The investigation was about to take a dramatic turn, offering hope for those seeking justice and closure for the families torn apart by Canon's actions. The road ahead, however, would be long and filled with challenges as investigators tirelessly pieced together the puzzle and brought Canon to account for his horrifying deeds. The investigation into Canon was heating up, and the cops were closing in. A search of his black BMW turned up some creepy stuff, rope and a fake gun, hinting at dark plans. Even worse, they found a tax disc for Shirley Banks' car hidden in the glove compartment. This led them to Canon's apartment building, where they made a shocking discovery. Shirley's orange Mini was parked in the garage, now a bright blue in a clear attempt to hide it. The pieces were falling into place, and Canon was looking more and more guilty of hurting Shirley. As the evidence piled up, people started coming forward with important details. A taxi driver remembered a strange situation where a woman called a cab from Canon's place the day after Shirley went missing. A neighbor saw Canon borrow a vacuum cleaner, probably to clean his car extra carefully. These little things painted a picture of a man scrambling to erase his tracks. Perhaps the scariest story came from a 69-year-old woman who lived near Canon's flat. On October 9th, she heard awful noises from nearby woods, sounds of struggle, pain, and terror. She even mentioned seeing a man with dark curly hair lunging at her when she went to check it out. This added another layer of evidence against Canon. Science also played a part in catching him. A raincoat Canon had cleaned had suspicious red stains. He lied, saying it was red mud from a park date, but tests revealed it was blood, possibly even Shirley's blood type. In a brilliant move, the police managed to create a set of Shirley's fingerprints from her belongings. One of the prints matched the document found in Canon's place, a huge piece of evidence connecting him directly to Shirley. With all this evidence stacked against him, Canon was charged with kidnapping and hurting Shirley on December 23, 1987. But the worst part of this whole story was yet to come. It took 6 agonizing months, but on April 3, 1988, Shirley's body was finally found. Searchers discovered her remains in a place called Dead Woman's Ditch, a creepy name for part of an ancient settlement in the Quantock Hills. The scene spoke volumes about her final moments. Her body was unclothed and covered in moss, a silent sign of the horror she went through. Close by, in the dark mud, investigators found gold jewelry and buttons from a dress Shirley had just bought. These everyday items, once symbols of a normal life, were now a grim reminder of a life stolen too soon. An autopsy by a doctor named Bernard Knight revealed the awful truth about Shirley's final moments. The multiple blows to her head with a rock told the story of a violent end, a terrible contrast to the happy life she had lived. The trial of John Cannon began in April 1989, a spectacle that would grip and terrify the nation. The courtroom became a stage where the truth about Cannon's crimes would be revealed, a horrifying pattern that would send shivers down everyone's spine. Cannon faced 9 charges, each more disturbing than the last. The abduction and murder of Shirley Banks was the most serious, but the list of offenses painted a picture of a man who left a trail of shattered lives in his wake. Attacks, kidnappings, and other terrifying acts filled the docket, each one a testament to the harm he had inflicted. For 3 weeks, the court peeled back the layers of Cannon's carefully constructed persona. Witnesses bravely recounted their terrifying encounters. Forensic experts presented undeniable evidence, and investigators detailed their relentless pursuit of justice. Julia Holman, the woman who bravely fought back against Cannon's attack, stood tall and identified him as her assailant. Her courage in facing her attacker was a powerful moment, giving a voice to the many women he had hurt. The prosecution painstakingly pieced together the events surrounding Shirley Banks' disappearance and death. The jury learned how Cannon likely held her captive overnight, forcing her to call in sick as a cruel act to maintain a fake sense of normalcy. The discovery of her car, repainted and hidden in his garage, exposed his calculated attempt to erase his tracks. Science played a crucial role too. The blood-stained raincoat, the matching fingerprint, and the personal items found near Banks' body tightened the net around Cannon. Each piece of evidence chipped away at his claims of innocence, revealing the darkness beneath his mask. As the trial unfolded, a disturbing picture emerged. A man who could be charming and deceiving while harboring violent tendencies. The contrast between Cannon's outward appearance and the horrific acts he committed left everyone struggling to reconcile the two. After 3 grueling weeks of testimony and evidence, the fate of John Cannon rested with the jury. For 10 long hours, they deliberated, weighing the mountain of evidence against him. The courtroom held its breath, waiting for their verdict. On April 28, 1989, the jury returned. John Cannon was found guilty on all charges. A heavy silence filled the room as the gravity of the situation settled in. Justice had been served, but at a terrible cost. Judge Drake, presiding over the case, didn't hold back when sentencing Cannon. He addressed him directly, stating, "You are attractive to some women, but beneath that lies a most evil violence and a horrible side to your character." These words captured the essence of Cannon, charming on the surface, but a monster underneath. With the full weight of the law behind him, Judge Drake sentenced Cannon to life in prison. This sentence brought a sense of closure to the families of his victims, but the pain and trauma would linger long after the trial. The John Cannon trial was over, but for detectives, a new question loomed large. Were there more victims? Cannon's crimes seemed practiced, hinting at a darker history than what the court saw. This suspicion led them down a chilling path of cold cases and unsolved mysteries. One such case was Sandra Court, a 27-year-old woman who vanished in May 1986, just as Cannon was briefly out of prison. Her body was found the next day, miles away, in a water-filled ditch. The timing and the way she was attacked were eerily similar to Cannon's known crimes. It wasn't until 2001 that police had enough to question Cannon about Sandra. A key piece of evidence emerged. Hairs matching Sandra's DNA were found in a red Ford Sierra Cannon had access to around the time of her disappearance. This placed Sandra in a car linked to Cannon, making him a strong suspect. Adding another layer of mystery was an anonymous letter expressing remorse for an accident. The handwriting looked like Cannon's, but he denied any involvement. Despite these clues, The evidence wasn't strong enough to charge him. Sandra's case remains unsolved, a stark reminder of the difficulty in tying cold cases to known criminals. But perhaps the most famous unsolved case linked to Canon is Susie Lamplou's disappearance. The 25-year-old estate agent vanished in 1986 after meeting a client named Mr. Kipper. Her body has never been found. The parallels with Canon are unsettling. He frequented wine bars in her area, had just been released from prison, and was even rumored to have used Kipper as a nickname. Police named him the prime suspect in 2002, but despite extensive searches, her fate remains a mystery. Canon has always denied involvement, but has hinted at a possible confession after his mother's death. This flicker of knowledge has kept hope alive for Susie's family, who have never stopped searching for answers. John Cannon's life sentence began, and the prison system had its work cut out for them. Deemed super dangerous, he was placed in the highest security prison in York, HMP Full Sutton. Even behind bars, Cannon remained a puzzle. Despite the mountain of evidence against him, he insisted he was innocent. This would play a big role in how he was treated and whether he might ever be freed. In a surprising move, Cannon decided to better himself, or maybe just improve his image, and started taking college courses through Open University. Studying for a degree seemed a world away from the violent crimes he committed, leaving everyone wondering what went on in his mind. Years passed, and the question of Cannon's release became a hot topic. He wouldn't be eligible for parole until 2023, but the seriousness of his crimes and the suspicion of more victims had many arguing he should never walk free again. Detective Superintendent Jim Dickey, who had been on the case from the beginning, felt strongly about this. He said, in no uncertain terms, that even if Cannon was released as an old man, he would still hurt women. Many in law enforcement who had seen the devastation Cannon caused agreed. Cannon wasn't sitting idle, though. He fought his sentence every step of the way. In 2003, he argued he wasn't getting proper legal help and took his case to court, but lost. In 2009, he tried again, claiming his human rights were being violated because he couldn't take a program for sex offenders since he wouldn't admit guilt. This case highlighted the tricky situation. How can you force someone to admit guilt to get help? He even tried to get his minimum sentence reduced, but a judge in 2008 shut that down too. The judge pointed out how much planning Cannon put into his crimes and that there was nothing that really excused what he did. As Cannon's possible release date loomed closer, so did public worry. The families of his known victims and those who believed he might have done more feared for their safety if he was ever set free. Cannon's case reopened debates about life sentences, public safety, and whether violent criminals could ever truly be reformed. Finally, in September 2023, after over 33 years behind bars, Cannon had a parole hearing. This hearing would decide if he could be released or even moved to a less secure prison. The anticipation was thick, and everyone was watching closely. On October 9, 2023, a decision came down. Cannon would not be released. He would also not be moved to a lower security prison. This meant he would stay in his high security prison, classified as a major danger. This decision brought relief to many, especially the families of the victims and those who suspected Cannon of more crimes. The parole board's decision showed that they considered Cannon a continuing threat. It also highlighted the lasting impact of his crimes, not just on the victims themselves, but on all of society. Cannon remains behind bars, but the cases linked to him are still being investigated and followed by the public. Susie Lamplou's disappearance, in particular, continues to be a mystery, with people still searching for answers. The story of John Cannon is a stark reminder of the long shadow violent crimes can cast. It shows the challenges the justice system faces in balancing punishment, protecting the public, and the possibility of rehabilitation. As technology advances and cold case investigations continue, there's always hope that someday all of Cannon's victims and their families will finally get the closure they deserve. All right, guys, before you dash off into the night, don't forget to hit that like button. It lets us know you're digging the content, and that keeps the creepy cases coming your way. While you're at it, smash that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss our next dive into the mysterious unknown. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll see you on the flip side for another mind-blowing case. Until then, stay curious.